All right, so we're going to do a roundtable. The topic is whether there's a lot of society concern about the impact of AI. And so we have three panelists. Two of them, their picture already showed up, but we have the honor to have Carlos Sierra here today as well. So I'll invite him to come forward and Carlos Castillo to come forward. So we will start with a presentation by Emilia Gómez, who most of you know, but she is quite an accomplished researcher in AI. At the moment, also working very closely with the European Union. And unfortunately, she cannot be presently here with us today, but she will contact us. I assume she's online already. If not, everybody has a chance to speak for a few minutes. And naturally, the question is how to do research in AI while the concerns are on. So I'll quiet down and let it go, Emilia.
Yeah, hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, we can.
Yes? Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here and start this round table discussion. So it's as a starter, I will try to maybe set up a little bit the scene, and also given the question and the title of the research discussion about this moratorium in AI, yes or no. So giving a little bit my perspective on this topic on artificial intelligence, also seen not as only as a technical topic, but also more as a socio-technical kind of topic. So I just wanted to very briefly give my 2 cents. Of course, many people that citizens or people are now a little bit afraid of artificial intelligence. We see artificial intelligence something as abstract, but in reality it is now in many of the systems that we use daily, either in our personal life or in our professional life. It is shaping our access to information, and also it's providing support to our decisions. So there has been, of course, in the research field and also during the last decades, this positive view of artificial intelligence as something that, or technologies that can support human intelligence in some way. So we have talked a lot about computer-assisted systems and AI as an assistant. And there are 4 properties of AI that I think are relevant from the socio-technical perspective, which are on these 4 that I put in my slide. On the artificial intelligence has many potential because it's general purpose, so it can be the same algorithms or maybe the same machine learning model could be deployed in different contexts, or the same technique can be applied from healthcare to education, and we see that in the wide range of applications that the department carries out in this field. It's also a technology that is very scalable in the sense that you spend a lot of effort in training a model. Once it's trained, it can be deployed with a very low cost and in a very wide context. And this is important because also economically, it's very cheap to deploy those systems and also have a huge impact. The 3rd capability is that AI is trying to somehow emulate certain tasks, such as audiovisual processing or prediction, that are cognitive, and that until now it was carried out by human beings. So it's getting more abstract somehow, and there is a huge economic opportunity linked to also scalability, which is productivity increase in human performance, for instance, when applying in jobs or in economic context. So this is somehow the positive opportunity and the opportunities that people say that artificial intelligence is bringing to society. And this is reflected by the investment that different countries are doing. This is a paper by Nando Martinez-Plumet that was in my team, from the way that different countries are investing. So it's more like becoming a geopolitical issue. But of course, here and the title of this discussion is more about the risks, and there is this more dark side of artificial intelligence, and many scholars and researchers have mentioned the motivation that due to certain characteristics of artificial intelligence, that some of them I put there, due to the fact that they rely a lot on data, and which sometimes is personal data, due to the fact that those systems are complex and maybe to a certain degree of opaque for their developers, due to the fact they are somehow unpredictable or might be unpredictable, and also due to this influence into cognitive abilities, and also the fact that they can be autonomous. These are certain properties that maybe are not found in other systems that create challenges. And I guess this discussion is motivated by the concern that some people have on the short-term impact and long-term risks of artificial intelligence. I put here a little bit some of the challenges that regulator finds in this field, such as the risk to safety and fundamental rights, which are maybe short-term, for instance, in a decision, discrimination, and so on. Risks that are more systemic or long-term, and that has been described, such as disinformation or cognitive atrophy, for the use of those technologies or addictions. And then some others that I put in yellow, illegal challenges, such as how to enforce a regulation on how people can will be mistrusting this technology, and also the risk of fragmentation, that different countries take different approaches for the regulation of those technologies. So for me, this discussion is more about finding the balance between those opportunities and risk in the proper way. So I wanted just to give you three ideas for discussion. The first one is, of course, we should avoid black and white thinking, and we have seen in the research community also a polarization about the positive view and the negative view, and also about maybe AI ethics, which is addressing short-term impact, and AI safety researchers, which are addressing long-term impact. So we should avoid this black and white thinking and think about which are the risks, also the probability, the impact, and which are the relevant mitigation measures. The second thing I wanted to point out is that there should be as research and as there should be as much research on evaluation and safety than research on AI development. And this has not been the case in the history. We have a lot of papers about new models, new algorithms. We have those algorithms improving state of the art, but we have not much invested in the evaluation and in the assessment of risk. And here we have to consider AI as socio-technical systems, which have an economic impact and which are geopolitical consideration. So still there's more research that needs to be invested in this field. And the third point I wanted to make is, of course, the need for regulation. And now that I work at the European Commission, of course, AI is an unregulated field, and we are seeing that having a huge societal impact, we have also to make some rules for evaluating and assessing the risk of those technologies. And just for you to know, and I take just 2 minutes to say that in Europe, we have 2 regulations that will address artificial intelligence in the coming years. The first one is the AI Act. The AI Act adopts a risk-based approach to artificial intelligence. So it say that artificial intelligence in products should have an ex-ante evaluation before being put into the market, like toys or medical devices, and then a monitoring of impact. And there are requirements also now being discussed in the European Parliament for general purpose AI, also for more narrow AI system, and also for foundation model. So this is something that you may be interested in knowing. There are different risk levels, different requirements, and this is a regulation that hopefully will be applied in the coming years in Europe. And there is a second regulation, which is a Digital Services Act, that tries to regulate the propagation of those AI systems in digital services, for instance, in platforms like search engines or social media. And it also has some requirements on the assessment of systemic risk and risk, for instance, to public health, gender-based violence, children, and disinformation, and the design of mitigation measure. And there are other very interesting properties, such as how researchers should access these platforms in terms of data to do research on the short and long-term impact of algorithmic system. So just to conclude, of course, my 5 minutes, it will be just in this very binary decision of moratorium or not moratorium. I think we need to find the good balance and between the opportunities that can be offered and also the risk. And I give the floor now to my colleague speakers for their position. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Emilia, for your introductory statement. I would like to introduce Carles Sierra. He is president of the European Association for Artificial Intelligence. He brought ICREA in 2011 to Barcelona. He is a leader researcher in the CSIC at Bellaterra. And he has worked in multi-agent systems, very prolific in many areas. We probably all associate Barcelona and artificial intelligence with him. So over to you for an introductory statement.
I need to press the button. So first of all, thanks for inviting me. So it is really great news that you are creating this institute, this research center. I was one of the people that was always saying why the people at UPF are not organizing themselves in such a group. And I think I discussed with several of you in different moments to have that strength. In a moment in which in Europe this has happened, I mean, last year we saw the creation of ADRA, who is, I would say, the political in the political interest of the European Union, there was a lot of pressure in order to have a single voice for artificial intelligence, data and robotics in Europe. And the association that joins BDBA, which is I would say, the big data association in Europe, EU Robotics, which is I would say, the embodied AI part, so is the robotics side, and 3 associations on artificial intelligence. One is ICREA, of which I am the president, but there is CLAIR, and then ELIS, that was already mentioned in the presentation before, which is focused mostly on learning. I mean, that's the L, one of the L's is about learning. So I think in the same way that we are kind of grouping together in Europe, I think having that at the UPF is very good news. I come from the IIIA. It is a research institute that is physically located in Bellaterra, at the campus of the Autonomous University. It is the heir of the, I would say, the earliest group on AI that was created in Spain. I think it was in 1985 in the city of Blanes. It was a department of the CSIC on artificial intelligence that later became the seed for the institute. It's not a large institute. We are around 80 people. Working on logic and reasoning, multi-agent systems, and machine learning. So it has been our work for many years. So yeah, I mean that's all about me. I didn't prepare slides about the position with respect to the moratorium or not moratorium, but I can tell you I signed the letter at the very beginning, and that was a terrible mistake. I mean, I have been talking to the media for, I don't know, 3 months in a row. I mean, everybody calling and asking, are we going to die tomorrow? I mean, that was the basic message from the media. And I think some of the aspects of that letter were a bit misunderstood, because the letter was not asking about stopping research on AI at all. So the letter clearly stated that research on AI had to continue. The only thing is that certain developments specifically on generative AI should be more cautiously deployed, so that companies should be more responsible in what were they putting in the hands of the general public. And in that sense, I agreed, because there has been kind of an arms race being provoked by OpenAI, in that Google, that was a bit more cautious and was not intending to open their system, they were forced to open it. And then Microsoft and others followed. So, of course, the moratorium hasn't had any effect. I mean, the companies have been, I mean, I guess you as researchers, we sign many things, but we know that the effect will not be what you intend. But it has been very interesting, the reaction of the media. It has been very interesting, the reaction of the European Parliament, because the AI Act that was mentioned in the presentation has been under the workings for, I would say, 2 years now, almost 2 years, with a very low pace. And I think this has accelerated at the Parliament in the last months because of the media pressure. And I think sometimes, even if you do not achieve what you want with your letters, the letters you sign, there is an indirect consequences that are good. One of the elements that was very lately introduced precisely in the AI Act is the consideration of generative AI as high risk. You saw the pyramid that Emilia was presenting. And for you to understand, of course, things that are prohibited are prohibited. I mean, you cannot try and do face recognition of people in public spaces, okay? So we would agree that without a judge giving an order for that, I mean, that should not be allowed. So this is prohibited. That's very good. Unfortunately, lethal autonomous weapons are not part of the law, because the law recognizes, or the Parliament recognizes itself as not having the authority to regulate defense. And that is really a pity. That should be something, since 2013, many researchers have been fighting to prohibit these autonomous lethal weapons, and it is an opportunity that unfortunately has been lost for that. But that's prohibited, that's fine. High risk, for you to understand, are things like AI systems that will decide to which school a particular kid would go. You know that every March, I mean, parents feeling what are the schools they want their kids to go to. And now there is the Department of Education that are determining through some points where students will go, where the kids will go. So if we build a system using AI that will do, I don't know, by some matchings of properties or determine where the kids will go, that will be considered high risk. That's not prohibited. I mean, it can be built, that system, but we need a lot of attention from the public authorities in knowing that it is transparent, that it can explain why a particular kid will go to a school and not to another, and so on. So high risk means that we will have the protection of the legal and of the supervision systems. And in that sense, I think the law is very well designed in that principle. The law has problems. For instance, what is AI? I don't know if you ever asked you the question, what the hell is AI? And we had definitions from the past. I mean, very simple definitions that may not be perfect. Like saying, well, it is any system that solves problems that when humans solve, they need their intelligence to be able to solve them, okay? So this is a very classical definition of AI coming from the 60s. But in the law, it has become a bit more complicated thing, because it says that any system that includes a particular set of technologies will be considered AI. And then it enumerates things. But some of the things are really, really basic statistics. So it is almost anything might be in the end considered AI. And this is a bit of a problem in the definition of AI for them. But anyway, it recognizes AI as three basic areas: learning, reasoning, and modeling. Modeling of others, modeling of the world. I mean, when you have any system that is doing one of these three activities, you would consider it as AI. So this is the scope of the law. What can I say more as an introduction? Actually, I was given a set of questions, but that will be for a debate afterwards, right? Okay, so I would just finish now by congratulating you about the creation of this institute and having a voice, a single voice for UPF. I think this is great news for the Catalan AI community.
Thank you, Carlos. And now I need the control to be here to introduce Carlos Castillo. Well, you know Chato for a long time. He's been his photo has shown up several times. He leads our social computing group. Very active, very prolific, more than 100 and so papers, 2 awards for long-standing test of time papers. So I pass on to him, and I hope that we can show his slides here. That's it, and you just...
Interesting. Can I see the second slide? Okay, so formatting is lost. Can I see the third one? Absolutely lost. Okay. let's play with this. So let's go to slide number 2. I wanted to speak about artificial intelligence, and then slide 2, number 2. So here are some definitions about what is intelligence, natural intelligence, and artificial intelligence. So this intelligence demonstrated by artificial or constructed entities, such as computers, is what is normally understood by artificial intelligence. But if we go to slide number 3, actually the AI Act, as Carlos was saying, defines artificial intelligence in a very broad way. And I think this is the correct way of defining the scope of our problem, right? So in the AI Act, they say artificial intelligence includes machine learning approach, logic approaches, and statistical approaches, which basically means everything, right? Everything that you can use to support a decision using historical data will fall into one of these categories of the AI Act. So, and I really like these very expansive descriptions of artificial intelligence, because they help you like regulate really AI and not allow people to move and say, no, I'm using logistic regression, I'm not using a neural network, so my thing is not artificial intelligence. No, it's a statistical-based approach, so it's artificial intelligence for the purposes of this regulation. Let's go to slide number 4. So these are the kinds of harms that we see described in real life versus real life, right? So the movies versus reality. So I will say, this is my speculation, I would say most of you are very unlikely to be killed by an AI within your lifetime. But most of us will be screwed by one at some point or another, if you haven't already been. So an AI in real life may place you at the end of a list of job candidates. An AI denied a mortgage for me, and I called on the phone, and the person on the phone executed the same process that I had done online and also denied the mortgage. And also she said, well, I don't know why. And then I figured out it was because of my nationality, because somebody leaked that information to me. But I had been already screwed by an AI, and probably you have. There are many applications. AI was developed for many applications that were kind of inconsequential, but it is being heavily used for things that are much more consequential. Now, if you go to slide number 5, I want to say that it's very, like, as Carlos, I share the same concern about the way in which media frames these things. And I'm going to quote Oppenheimer here, and I'm not saying this is a model scientist for you, please. So scientists are very often called to give technical information in one way or another, and it's very difficult to be honest. And it's very difficult not because scientists lie, but because we are asked questions in such a way that it's impossible to give an answer that is not misleading. And I think these sort of questions, like a moratorium on AI, yes or no, is that class of questions where it's very difficult to give an answer that is not misleading, because yes and no are misleading answers here. So if you go to slide number 6, there is a very interesting book by Virginia Eubanks, where her book is called Automating Inequality. And she wrote about how many times, about several instances of algorithms being used as a tool to hide behind an algorithm for making a decision that was already made, right? And what I mean by that. So for instance, she showed 3 cases where algorithms have been introduced by governments wanting to reduce social expenditure or the expenses in social benefits. And the algorithm developers are told, okay, I want you to find the 20% of the people who are more likely to be committing fraud with this social benefit, without a minimum probability or anything. And then 20% of the people are cut off from this benefit, for instance. Now, this is an algorithm being used as an excuse for a decision that is already made. And what's interesting to me, and actually it's not interesting to me, it's more interesting for you, that these systems are usually tested in low right setting, maybe in jail, maybe with migrants, maybe in border control, in setups where people are perceived to have less rights. And then they come after people who perceive themselves as having more rights. Let's go to slide number 7. Ruman Choudhury, who was fired from Twitter by one of the signatories of the moratorium. She calls this moral outsourcing. So moral outsourcing is this act of taking an AI and anthropomorphizing, well, making it anthropomorphic, so to blame the AI for a decision that is made by a human. In the previous slides, the decision was to reduce the expenses in a social benefit, and then you put an AI and you justify by statistics, numbers, and opaque ways a decision that was already done. If we go to slide number 8, we do work on this topic in several areas, and we have 4 PhD theses in my group on this, 20 papers, etc. I'm sorry for the slide. So let's go to slide number 10. The next one? Yeah. So this is again Oppenheimer, and this is again Oppenheimer, and this is again Oppenheimer. I hate my voice. God. So Oppenheimer wrote this thing. The thing we made, partially because of the technical nature of the problem, partially because we worked hard, partially because we had good breaks, really arrived in the world with such a shattering reality and suddenness that there was no opportunity for the edges to be worn off. So I'm not going to show you pictures of incinerated bodies of children. There were 2 nuclear bombs dropped over cities that had 200,000 inhabitants, cities like Sabadell or Tarrasa, that were decimated, and not decimated, like the population was reduced by half. So like this thing that had the edges not worn off was really deadly and destructive. And this was, I think, underpins the idea of move fast and break things, right? So next time you hear move fast and break things, please remember this nuclear cloud, which is like a very clear demonstration of what happens when you move fast and break things. So let's go to slide number 11. We have our own biases, and here is more like speaking to like the engineers and scientists among the audience, is that we have certain bias, and one of our biases is that we believe that knowledge has intrinsic value, that it's important to research these things. And many other scientists that were against the nuclear bomb did believe this thing, right? So Einstein was against, like he spoke against like the use of nuclear energy for military purposes, and he actually believed that knowledge is of intrinsic value to humanity. But we resist the idea that our creation can be used for dangerous things, and this is because the idea of regulating or constricting our research is seen as something that is completely against deep values that we hold, right? So next time you find yourself like thinking, no, we cannot regulate AI because whatever, think, this is something very ingrained in my value system, the fact that knowledge has intrinsic value, and then you cannot forbid me from seeking knowledge, which is true, but it has consequences. So if we go to slide number 12, I'm going to tell you what's my position on the moratorium. I don't think there should be a moratorium on the AI development as it is in that letter. I think we should focus on the applications of the tools, not on the tools themselves. If somebody's worried about privacy, then privacy should be protected. If somebody's worried about being killed by a drone, then autonomous weapons should be banned, and so on. And slide 13, and I'm the third person in the panel to speak about the AI Act, but because I think it's really important, it's about applications, right? So the AI Act is structured around applications, and it defines like some applications that we forbid, some applications that are high risk, limited risk, and minimal risk. And I think this is more like a framing that I consider more acceptable, right? And in this case will be, we are not forbidding people from researching on nuclear energy, but we could I think it will be very productive to forbid people from researching on nuclear weapons in this case. And I think there are nice parallels with that. And that's my opening statement.
Thank you, Carlos, for your introductory statement. The way I planned this is to have some set of questions. Sadly, there's people who have widely spoken, and they have probably been very noticeable, like Bill Gates, on a moratorium on AI, and I email and Bill declined to comment. So, so probably we have a biased panel in that there seems to be a lot of consensus between them. So my first question, and anybody in the panel can answer, then we give an opportunity to the public as well, is should we have a reason for concern because the agencies or the bodies or the organizations that are conducting research in AI are not slowing down? They're actually moving faster than whatever society or whatever act is being able to provide. And in the sense that goes a little bit with Carlos' statement that industry is moving fast and without any consideration. So I don't know if who.
Well, I would say, again, what the moratorium is saying is not slowing down the research. This is not mentioned ever in the letter. It is more about deployment. I think it's more like it's not the nuclear energy, but it's the nuclear bomb. So this is the thing that the moratorium is asking for. So there is a reason of concern. Yes, I mean, there are military research labs that are developing, I insist again with what I said before, I mean, these autonomous lethal weapons. So if you go to the discussion on the topic, I mean, only very minor countries have signed the prohibition of these kind of weapons. And it is clear, and everybody in our research area can tell that there is no way we can be sure to distinguish between combatants and non-combatants. And this is a key for any weapon to be acceptable in the sense of being autonomous. So as this is not possible, then the autonomous weapons should be banned. So are we going to be, should we worry? In a sense, yes, because there will be developments that if they are not regulated can cause harm. But that's why we need to insist to our authorities, legal, legislative authorities, to do things like the AI Act and beyond it, to regulate what companies are doing. Anybody else on the panel? Or is definitely everybody agrees with that one? Okay. So I'll take another gist, maybe also highlighted here and in the prepared questions. So most of these proponents of restrictions on maybe AI research or AI applications suggest that superhuman AI is around the corner, very much like Carlos' slides, that we're going to face some robot when we draw money out of a automatic machine, and that robot is going to rob us right there in the act and so on. So is it realistic to say some capabilities of AI have shown these superhuman AI or has surpassed human performance, and where are really the risks? Not so much in the fantasy of Hollywood that the arguments about slowing down AI are, but really what do we really fear in the recent years? What are the recent deployments and applications? Carlos has mentioned some, but where is the risk really? I mean, so these super AI is exaggerated, or is they already taking some place? Okay.
So I'm a bit agnostic on that question regarding superhuman AI. So I often feel like when we speak about intelligence, although very intelligent people have written about intelligence, I still feel that this is like, I feel like an alchemist, like talking about how the elements have a water, an air, a fire, and an earth essence. Like we're completely wrong. This is what my feeling. My feeling is that we're completely wrong about what intelligence is, about superhuman intelligence. I have this is just my feeling, right? Like we're totally wrong about it. Now, regarding the risk, I don't think the risk is superhuman intelligence now. As I said, like we are unlikely to be killed by an autonomous weapon, I hope. But we are very likely to be to have our rights taken away by one. The more we automate things, the more we create these systems, the more likely we are to be caught in one of these Kafkian labyrinths where we are being scored by an AI to do something in a very opaque manner. And I think all these safeguards of, okay, we have to have a human in the loop and there is a regulation and so on, at many levels they are useless. At many levels they are useless. Like if you take a bureaucrat and you give this bureaucrat a risk assessment system, and there are many, like for instance, Catalonia is one of the few places in the world where there is like a risk assessment system for recidivism risk prediction. The other are some places in the US, in the UK, it's very scattered, and Catalonia is one of the places where there is a risk assessment system. And I think it's being used somehow responsibly, somehow. Right? But as you take this bureaucrat with a risk assessment system and now you tell them now instead of processing 20 cases per day, you have to process 200 cases per day, then the bureaucrat starts to really rubber stamp the decisions of the AI. So there is no meaningful human oversight. So I think the risk is not superhuman AI. The risk is anything. Is statistical methods being used to make decisions, not even to inform them, just to really to make them in the end. So I see there the real risk. And why I say that's a real risk? Because that's because of the scale, right? Because of the scale. So that is it's more likely to affect all of us in different manners. Yeah.
So if I may complement to that.
Okay, can we give Emilia the turn?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry to be in this hybrid format. I'm not sure when to speak. Yeah, thanks a lot. I feel like I'm the god with this in the screen, super big with Carlos there. So I feel like taking care. Yeah, I would like to react a bit. I mean, I'm very happy to see the support to the AI Act. I've been contributing more with technical support within the Commission to this regulation. It's very, very complicated to have a regulation that can be applied also in practice, and we had a lot of concerns about this regulation is stopping innovation. So we had, there was many claims about should we innovate and then regulate, or should we regulate? And I would like to, maybe my personal opinion is that there are many, this is a very, and technology that has a huge impact. As Carlos said there, and Carles, there might be impacts, social impacts due to automation and over-reliance on those techniques. But other fields have this. I don't know, there's nuclear energy, there also medical devices, and I guess the people here that work in medical device know all the measures that need to be taken before putting that into real world. So for me, there's no point to put a technology there without having tested or having ensuring the impact. Putting, I don't know, this chatbot open to children, to people without having an assessment. So I'm more worried about then the impact of the technologies that are not controlled, and that about over-reliance or superintelligence. For instance, that even if we are able to have a human general AI performance, we will have just another human, no? So the risk will be to have something that is deployed scalable and on the wide scale. So if you have a bug in your system, you will affect many people. So that's for me the problem. And also one aspect that maybe has not been mentioned is that the more we automate cognitive abilities, there's this risk that has been mentioned in the literature about cognitive atrophy, that people may just become unable to do certain things. So, for instance, finding your way in a map, or making a decision by yourself, or selecting your music, something like that. So, for me, this is also an important aspect that we haven't touched: the impact on cognitive abilities of human, and also on work, which is also something that I think is a risk. So I just wanted to contribute with that. Thanks a lot. I pass the floor to Carlos.
No, very simple. I mean, what I wanted to say. I mean, I mean, Copernicus already said that the planet Earth was nothing important in the universe. And Darwin said that we humans are not very important at all in the universe. We are just one of many species inhabiting this planet. Actually, there were 6 species of Homo that were killed by the Homo sapiens. So we are very good at annihilating the other intelligent elements in the planet. Maybe not just AI, but I mean, we are capable of doing it. So superhuman intelligence, I mean, well, human-level intelligence, yeah, we have humans. So we have human-level intelligence, that's clear. Can we have superhuman intelligence? Why not? So what is the metaphysical reason that would make impossible to be more intelligent than humans? I mean, that would be, to me, a completely stupid, thing, thinking that we are at the top of anything in terms of intelligence. And actually, there are many systems that are more intelligent than we are. I mean, just try and play chess with a machine. I mean, you will see how it works. Or try and find the three-dimensional structure of a protein by your traditional methods and not using AI. I mean, AI will compute it in milliseconds in some cases, when humans will take months. I mean, so super intelligence is there. It is clear, and there will be more of that. The only thing, because when people talk about superhuman intelligence, is that, oh my God, the AI will kill us all. I mean, that's what people think. We need to be cautious, and when we build systems, we need a button, a very big button in red that says stop, so that we humans can put the button and stop the thing. So be in control. I think this is the maximum and the clear definition that we have to give our requirement to engineers when they build any system empowered by AI, the stop button.
Thank you very much. I actually like the 3 participations because they highlighted natural intelligence, one aspect, and cognition, and so on, that we are very happy to see in our center. That we have also incorporated researchers in cognitive science, researchers in neuroscience and so on, because what you're saying, all right, at what point the human gives up making decisions because the system seems good enough and I need to meet certain standards, or at what point we consider ourselves the ultimate expression of intelligence, all right? So I would like you to explore if, changing the question is, if by analyzing or by studying or by reviewing, or how much inspiration has research in AI received from the examples of natural intelligence, and if these examples are useful for guiding also the moral path of research in AI. And I don't know if anybody wants to take that question.
Yeah, maybe I can say something, Vladimir. Yeah, for me, it's very important to consider human intelligence, not only to emulate it, but most for the oversight part. You know, as Carlos has mentioned, the work of cognitive scientists is crucial to understand really how we can interact with this kind of systems and how we can somehow have decisions informed by those systems. And this is related to those topics of over-reliance or automation bias. So for me, it's the inspiration should come for the combination of human and machine intelligence, and also to see which is the impact that the use of certain tools and technology may have on human intelligence, not the other way around. And then I also wanted to mention that another topic of discussion, maybe for another panel, will be also neuroscience and this link of technologies that can support neuroscience. But this is maybe for another roundtables. So that's from my side on this question.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I don't know. This is a very broad question, very difficult. One paper recently, just to put a connection with neurosciences, that was very exciting a few weeks back. There was a paper in Nature of a scientist that put 3 individuals inside an fMRI machine, poor guys, for 16 hours. I mean, and they were reading books to those guys, okay? you can imagine yourselves in those machines, okay, in which you are surrounded by these kitty-clong noises, and then reading books non-stop, 16 hours, okay. So they were recording what parts of their brain were activated, depending on but you know, these machines detect where the oxygen is consumed in what part of the brain. So they were feeding a deep neural network with that information. And then, interestingly enough, after that, they would give a paper to read to the person, and they could manage to generate voice out of the internal reading without voice of the person. And of course, it was not perfect. You need a 3-tone machine around you. But this is a clear notion that the connection with our own intelligence is very important for AI, and that can produce amazing results, because you can imagine people with brain paralysis, people that think perfectly well inside, but they cannot articulate what they say. That could be a fantastic tool for them. So I think, but of course, the journalists on the phone, oh my God, the government will read our minds. We are at the end, we're doomed. No, I mean, that was the interpretation of journalists. But the medical applications are fantastic. So I think there are many positive things to learn from that. We could talk hours about this anyway.
Okay.
I want to say, yeah, so you spoke about the moral path of research on AI, and I want to say that we computer scientists are very unprepared for ethical reasoning, because ethical reasoning is very situated, and we value abstraction and universality, right? Somehow we try to look for abstract things that are general, and that's what we seek. And ethics is much more situated. Let me give you 2 examples of that. So for instance, most of natural language processing research, NLP research, has been done for processing English language. So is that universal NLP research, or is it research that is somehow affected by the fact that most of the research that is published by scientists is done in English, and because of the preeminence of the UK and the US in the world? I give you another example about like trying to universalize things. Like in the US, they are very against like nipples, somehow, like female breasts, and there is all the censorship that goes, all the money and the person months that have been invested into creating filters that filter images containing female breasts is amazing. Like, it's a lot of person months. And while here we say, well, there are things that are more dangerous, like guns, for instance, right? So our ethics, our morality is very different both sides of the Atlantic. So there is no way we're going to have like a moral system to build into our AIs that's going to work well at both sides of the Atlantic. I hope the example was understood, right, by the way. So there is a huge need for having like multicultural digital ethics here. And this multicultural digital ethics is going to be situated. And by being situated, it's going to be seen, it is seen as something that is very far from traditional computing research, and therefore is very difficult for computer scientists to engage with. So we are very unprepared for that, because we look for these general rules, and as I gave on my example, these general moral rules don't exist. They depend on, like, they are situated like in a specific context.
I think that this is a clear example where interdisciplinary work is needed, and I partly disagree. I mean, there are scientists, social psychologists that have been studying the notion of values, for instance, and so there are universals. So the notion of fairness, the value of fairness, appears across all cultures. What you differ from is the interpretation of fairness in different cultures. And I agree that you need to situate those moral or those value systems in particular communities. And there is work on that as well. I mean, I'm a big fan of Elinor Ostrom, who was the only woman that received the Nobel Prize on Economics. And she studied how communities of humans organize themselves in order to be sustainable. And it is amazing how certain communities, for instance, the Irrigans in the east of Spain, they have been following certain norms, certain regulations for 500, 600 years, and they work in a fantastic way. I mean, there are very little conflicts, things are smooth. So we want AI to extend our capabilities, and we want AI to help us. So the AI at least has to understand us. So the AI has to understand our value system, because, I mean, we don't want them to do something different. We want them to help in our endeavor. So they need to understand the value system, and they need to interact with us in a way that is meaningful. And for that, we will need to adapt their morality to the concrete environment where it is situated. Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm going to give the public the opportunity to raise your hand and raise a question.
I have a follow-up on this, because it seems that all these moralities, they seem to be very complicated and law-directed. Well, I work with infants, and I work with babies, and something that a very young toddler, 1 to 2 years old, has a very clear distinction between what it is to generalize from knowledge and when simply lying. And this is something that with my interactions with ChatGPT, it has clearly shown that we are failing at introducing critical differences that they exist for humans and not for machines. These machines, there was this very funny, it appeared everywhere, of this kind of machine that fell in love with whatever it was interacting and saying you should abandon your wife and things like this. And there were lies. And young children, they're very aware that lies are bad, that they shouldn't lie. And this goes again, it's nothing cultural. We are born with this. And I am a bit concerned that, and this is not local regulations, this is very basic knowledge that is in humans. And the machines, they're extremely powerful at generalizing, at getting information, but they don't know where to stop. There's this red line that humans, one thing is lying, and the other thing is overgeneralizing, and the machines are not aware of this distinction. This is critical. If we have to interact with machines, they have to be able to know when they have crossed this red line that my 18-month-old child that comes to the lab knows it. So it's not the lack of computation, it's a different type of computation.
No, this, what philosopher would say is whether you can ascribe intentionality to systems. And there is a big debate about whether AI systems can be intentional. Because that's a confusion. Lying, there is an intention in lying. Being overgeneralizing or making a mistake is making a mistake with the data you had. And if we manage, I mean, the question is whether there are some philosophers like Dennett that they think systems could be made intentional, and that intentionality should be part of the knowledge representation, because we want systems to understand what we do. So we want systems that when we get out of home and we take an umbrella, we want our assistant robot making the model and thinking that we probably think there will be rain, because that will explain the action of the person. And maybe that will trigger something. Hey, John, don't take the umbrella. The forecast is fantastic. So perceiving the intentions of others and having a theory of mind, what the others think, which is a very human capacity that only chimpanzees and gorillas can somehow have, is a functionality we would probably like to have in our systems. But it is very basic now. It is not something you will get just by adding more data into the learning process. You will need to build more cognitive architectures. Actually, if you go into, you see the latest presentations by LeCun, who is one of the proposers of deep learning. He said, we have to stop, no more data, we need to have less data, and we need to go back to cognitive architectures, which is the direction that you are going. Yeah.
Okay, we are basically out of time. So I would like them to summarize in 2 sentences. I know the question was very biased, and it was on purpose to generate some debate. So I assume the responsibility for formulating the title of the debate. So over to Carlos first.
Well, the first thing is that I think today is a day of celebration. So I would conclude by I'm extremely happy that the CESANI has been created. I think this is very good news for Barcelona, for Catalonia, for the ecosystem. And I really congratulate you for this decision. For the rest, I think AI, as many technologies, I mean, will produce very good things. And we need to be careful with the bad guys that will try to do bad things with it.
Okay, over to Emilia, please. Summary sentences.
Yeah, I would like to say two things. One, again, also, I'm very happy with this new center. Also, as the question by Nuria was reflecting the need for more interdisciplinary work on this, and because, for instance, the way chatbots are evaluated are not considering common sense or some other more knowledge on cognitive science. So I think the UPF has an opportunity also for this cross-disciplinary view on artificial intelligence, involving cognitive scientists, neuroscientists, and also other departments of the UPF. And also I would add to what Carlos said, we need to see also the bad guys, but we also need to look at the good guys that are doing things with good intention, with unintended consequences. So also we need to work towards more intelligent systems, but also intelligent evaluations of the technology and assessment of the technology. And this is a little bit my conclusion.
Thank you very much. And Carlos?
Yeah, so I will end by saying that that many highly consequential uses of AI are embedded within bureaucracies. And these, sometimes bureaucracies in the public sector, sometimes bureaucracies in the private sector, but they are embedded within bureaucracies. And then the object to be evaluated and to be somehow controlled is the bureaucracy plus the AI, the bureaucrat plus the AI. What are the decisions that come out of this office that now has an AI tool to be assisted? So I think that's another element, another point where interdisciplinary research is needed, is because the object being evaluated is no longer the technological artifact, but the decisions that come out of using that artifact.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank the panelists.